Many thanks for clicking on to attheraces.com as we look forward to the 2013 John Smith's Grand National. This time around, we're going to take a look at some of the outsiders, horses who could belie their prices and go on to run extremely well to guide us through the form. We've got some expert hands in the studio. Mick Fitzgerald is with us. And Mick, just looking at the National, is it a race that even when you were young and looking at jockeys and sort of sitting there with your grandparents or your family, was it a race that really sparked your racing interest?
Oh yeah, the Fitzgerald household stood still for Grand National Day, and it was, you know, we'd crowd around the TV, and I can remember my mother used to let us have a couple of bets, my brother and I can remember crying underneath the table because my brother's horse won and mine didn't. So I think I was hooked from very early on.
And did he do the same when you won the race in '96?
It was amazing, really. Luckily for me, it's one of the great things about it. My dad was there, and you know, it's a day I will never ever forget. So you know, it's fantastic.
Well, Mick's got one or two fancies at bigger prices for the race this time round, and it is a race that in recent years has thrown up some quite big prices. 33 to 1 last year for Neptune Collonge. Monmouth, the now retired Monmouth, at 100 to 1 4 years ago. There was just silence across the racecourse when he came past the post. Silver Birch for Gordon Elliott in 2007 at 33s. Bindery at 20s, and Red Marauder as well through the mud at 33 to 1 also. Now let's have a look at the prices of those horses from 20 to 1 and up this time around. Ballabriggs from a couple of years ago, back down to the same handicap mark at 20 to 1. Balazar King at 22s, Rare Bob at 25s, Roberto Goldback at 33s, and a whole host of horses there on 40 to 1 and bigger, including a couple we could have a look at. Kellsy and Treel. This, we've got to look back to the 2012 Irish Hennessy when Kellsy won at Grade 1 level here, Mick.
Yeah, this is a horse I really like, Martin. Ever since this horse has been running over fences, I've always thought of him as a national type. Big and bold. He has actually come to grief on more than one occasion, but I just love the way this horse goes about it. And every year you have a Grand National winner at over 20 to 1. People go, why didn't I see that? Look, he won this, he won that. This is a Grade 1 winner. Grade 1 success. And
a very strong galloper as well, isn't he, when he goes up from the front?
He loves it. He's a big, solid, framed horse. He's just the type you'd like to be sat aboard going around those big fences. I think he'll revel in it.
He won the 2012 Irish Hennessy. He was beaten in the race this year, but you look at the horses who beat him, and the form looked pretty solid.
Yeah, they're top-class form. It really is coming into it. Yes, he's got plenty of weight, but he deserves it from what he's achieved. And for me, he's big enough to carry weights. And you know, everybody said, oh, you can't win the National if you're carrying more than 11 stone. That's been proved wrong the last couple of years.
Yeah, we've had horses at 11 stone 5 and 11 stone 6 winning in the last couple of seasons. Well, Roberto Goldback was second. We'll come back to him in a second. The horse who was third in that Irish Hennessy of just over 12 months ago was Treel, and he was back in winning form at Down Royal last time out.
Yeah, this is quite nice form. Again, when as I've said earlier on, I've watched the National from last year a few times now, and this horse took a quite heavy fall down the side last year. And again, he's not the biggest of horses. He's brave though, and if he goes back there and he likes it, I think he's another one that could play a part. But the jury would be out. When you have a horse have a heavy fall like he had, I'd always like to see them jump a couple of those fences first. And
that's probably quite a weak race that he won at Down Royal. I know the Galway Plate when he was in there, but there's a couple of withdrawals beforehand, and the Galway Plate when has since been well beaten off.
Yeah, there is stronger form, I think, on offer at some of the horses at bigger prices.
Well, one horse who has been well backed in recent days, he was 66 to 1 the weekend before the Grand National, is now around 25 to 1. It's Rare Bob, who was actually in action and behind the likes of Seabass and Prince Devotion, Mick, on his most recent start.
Yeah, and again, this is a good run here by this horse at Naas. We're watching him finishing third. Keeps at it really well. Shows his well-being. And as we've seen already, Desi Hughes, he's in very good form.
Yeah, third on this occasion. He was fourth the time before. That was the running behind Seabass and Prince Devotion. And another horse who's got plenty of experience over the Aintree fences.
Yeah, you know, a horse who, he likes it round there. Yes, he's had a little bit of bad luck. But at the same time, when you've got a horse with previous experience, they're going back there with that experience which they can use to their benefit.
Yeah, Red Bull back in the race off the same mark. Well, Roberto Goldback goes for Nicky Henderson. And this fellow, he won, didn't he, Mick, for it, or I think maybe his debut for Nicky back at Ascot, which we can see here in November, but hasn't quite gone on from there, although Grand Conditions connections have been said have not been suitable at any point since this run.
No, they haven't, but he got hammered. You know, this was his first run for Nicky. He absolutely bolted up, and the handicapper took a pretty dim view of this. Put him up £12, and it scuppered his chance then of being competitive in a lot of other races. He ran well in the Racing Plus Chase at Kempton. He was beaten around 15 lengths, I think, by opening batsman. That was a good run. They bought him as a Grand National horse. He's probably not too badly off at the weights, but you'd like to see him with a little bit less on his back.
Yeah, I think even though the connections are still, the ground's not been suitable, he hasn't sort of shown anything really like that first bit of form we saw at Ascot.
No, he hasn't, and it's a little bit of a concern for me. But he's a grand type, and as we've seen before, his form ties in. He's got form at Grade 1 level, so he has got the form in the book. And sometimes you get these horses to Aintree for that first time, they really come to life, and it just ignites that flame underneath them, and they can find that old form. So this fella, if you fancy this horse, I wouldn't put you off.
Well, Ballabriggs was the winner in a couple of years ago now. He went back to defend his crown last year and was sixth, and he's back again, Mick, this time round, off the same mark, and one horse who will enjoy the ground conditions.
Yeah, he will, and anybody who watches last year's running and the year he won, you'll see this horse travelling really well throughout the race. He jumped brilliantly, and he gave Jason Maguire a great spin last year. And any horse that can do that regularly, you can see this horse nicking a place. And, I think for me, that's about as good as his chance is.
I mean, he's off, I think, about a £10 lower mark than he was last year, which could help to see him step up a couple of places. But at 12 years old, to go and make up the distance to be able to win, difficult.
You can't really see him turn the tables with Seabass, can you, who finished in front of him? And that, for me, is, the bare facts of it all. I think he's 152 this year. He was 150 when he won the race, so it shows you he's around the same mark. And Oscar Time, who finished second to him that year, he's off the same mark again. So those two horses roughly around the same again.
OK, well, one horse we've not seen for a good couple of months now is Balthazar King. He was in winning form last time we saw him. Let's get the latest on his well-being from his jockey, Richard Johnson.
Balthazar King definitely wouldn't have run if it was soft. The main reason I've gone for Balthazar King, he's so tough. He never runs a bad race, touch wood, but he's just got a great attitude. Obviously, he's run over 3 miles 7 in the cross-country races. Looks like he gets every yard of it. It's obviously a big difference in the national to the cross-country races, but he's enthusiastic, wants decent ground, jumps, hopefully ticks a lot of the right boxes.
And for you, would that be a real feather in your cap? It's one that you're missing at Grand National. You came so close on What's Up Boys.
I think everybody would like to win it. It's probably the world's most famous horse race, I think. And yeah, I'd love to win it. It's one of those things you've got to be on the right horse, and the horse has got to take to it. I was very lucky on What's Up Boys. I thought it was my year, and just got collared on the line. But yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic thrill. You know yourself, when you go around there on a horse that takes to it, there's no better feeling. If you go around there on a horse that doesn't take to it, there's no worse feeling. But it's I can't see why Balthazar King shouldn't enjoy it, and say he's got the right attitude.
We last saw him, Mick, at Cheltenham way back in the early part of the season, finishing second, but he'd won on his previous start, and we've seen Silver Birch using those cross-country races as a prep for the National itself.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that Dickie he nailed his colours to this fella's mast fairly early on, and I think he's not a back number. The fact that the ground is drying will help his cause, and like Dickie said, he's come close a couple of times. What's Up Boys, when they've very narrowly beaten on him, so it'd be nice to see Dickie win a big one.
And in terms of the rest of the field, we've got an 11-year-old in Big Fella Thanks, who's now with Tom George. He ran a cracking race under a big rate at Newbury last time.
Yeah, he did, and he's got form here as well. He ran very well a few years ago, of course, when Ruby Walsh wasn't able to ride him, and Barry Gerrsey managed to ride him. He jumps well, he liked the fences. The worry is, does he stay? You can see him getting to the lucky last and then maybe fading.
Yeah, he's run well at the Becher and probably ran better in the Becher than he has done in the National in previous years. So there's some of the outsiders then. The betting then for the bigger priced horses: Ballabriggs at 20s, Balthazar King at 22s, Rare Bob at 25, Roberto Goldback at 33s. Then we're into the 40 and 50 to 1 categories. If we're looking for an outsider or a couple of outsiders, Mick, to be backing at bigger prices, what would they be?
Oh, Kellsy. I'm all over him like a rash. I have to admit, I've backed this horse 3 times already. 50s, 66s and 40s. I see he's even 50s now in places. But for me, I think he's a very viable proposition.